Good evening and welcome to a Thursday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show, also known as Orange and Blue Bloods. Great show tonight. We got some people you want to hear and what's going on in Gainesville. We'll talk about red hot Todd Golden, who's reeling them in right and left, and also what are the takeaways from the spring game, as according to Edgar Thompson, one of the very best beat reporters out there. Edgar joins us. We'll have also Ben Troupe, along with Franz Beard and Coach Loren Meadows, all coming your way tonight. Stay tuned for the Buddy Martin Show. Tell your friends and neighbors we are on the air.
It's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I've been ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Evening and welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. The program is called The Buddy Martin Show. That makes sense. We're with you 4 times a week, sometimes 5, occasionally on Shane Matthews' show. Tonight it's going to be a special treat. We want to know what's going on the inside in Gainesville. Listen, beat reporters are the hardest working people in journalism. They're digging all the time, chasing leads. And one of the very best of them is Edgar Thompson, who does it with great aplomb and energy, and he joins the program tonight. We're glad to have Edgar here to find out what his takeaway from all this. By the way, on a couple of notes, Jaden Rashada is in the transfer report. Remember him? The $13 million man? Wow. Didn't take long, did it? And this is what's happening now. Gator basketball, Todd Golden on fire. He's got 3 really top-notch commits. We'll talk about that. Not so much out in Colorado. Coach Prime is feeling the breeze of some people leaving to the portal. And tonight, it's a women's national gymnastics. We'll be hearing from our friend Dan Bond, who's in Dallas, talking about what's happening out there. Gators among 4 teams competing at 9 o'clock. So, all right, let's go right to the Orange and Blue Room and talk to our good friend Edgar Thompson, who has agreed to come to the program under the Witness Protection Program. That's the only way to do it. What's up, man?
Hey, buddy.
Good to see you again. Been a while. Good to see you, Edgar.
You too. Thank you for having me.
I thank you for being on. I know you're a busy guy. We love to have you on and get your takeaway because it being informed is part of it, certainly. And you are very informed and you work extremely hard at it. So I understand completely. Sometimes you get in there and dig for a story and it never makes the light of day. But explain to people who might not know the life of a beat reporter, and you're more than that, but you do have that skill set, and it's a different kind of cat.
I mean, my main job's covering Florida football and Gator athletics. I do a couple other sports, as you know, some golf, which I really love, and do Daytona racing. So that's kind of off to the side and pulls me away a little bit. But yeah, man, you just got to try to, stay up with things as much as you can, keep those relationships nurtured and be fair and balanced and try to do that. Sometimes sarcasm and cynicism, comes out a little bit, whether we're here or podcasting or doing Shane's show, which I hop on pretty often.
Right.
But, yeah, when the team's 11-14 or in 2 years, criticism comes with that, and you have to see it with perspective, but you got to call, it like you see it, and doesn't mean you're always right.
Yeah.
But people, that can create some
Hey,
friction.
Don. Sorry.
It's all right. Who you yelling at?
I'm just, my friends in the background are talking. I know it's coming through for you guys. I
Okay.
want you to know that we don't know I'm on the air. So go ahead, Edgar.
No, I mean it can, it can strain relationships with coaches and fans at times. But I'll say this, man, Billy Napier, he's a respectful guy and a gentleman, and he understands the gig for sure. He knows what he walked into. He didn't walk into this thinking, oh man, these people are, you know, going to be super patient, if patient at all, and accepting what they've seen. I truly believe, buddy, this 4 games, and you could really say 2 in particular, the Arkansas loss in overtime this past November 4th, and that debacle at Vanderbilt his first season. You toss those 2 out, conversation's a little different. That Utah game where they appeared so discombobulated in the season opener, you'd had all that time to prepare for, and then the beat down at Kentucky on the heels of the win against Tennessee just 2 weeks earlier. I think those 4 games are the ones that really stick. There have been other performances people weren't happy about, but those ones were head scratchers and ones they really can't repeat. You just can't no-show against teams you have probably equivalent talent or a lot of runway to prepare for in Utah's case. Playing with backup quarterbacks, mind you, right? Quarterbacks that didn't have much experience. And on the road, yes, and then just the discombobulation against Arkansas and losing at Vanderbilt for the first time in decades. Those are the ones I think that are sour fans and have people, restless. But, Billy's made a ton of changes, has a retooled roster, very few Dan Mullen holdovers at this point, and it's his team, and he's going to, either succeed or fail with this at this point.
Yeah, you sound a little bit optimistic. Speaking of optimism, this guy is always optimistic, and he's always smiling. We call him Pastor Ben. When things get real bad, he does a little sermon, and we feel better. But I know you'd like to know Ben, and Edgar, good to have you on, and with Ben.
Oh, man, I covered Ben my first 2 years on the beat.
Was he any good? Was he really any good?
The FSU performance in 03 still is one of the best games I've seen from a pass catcher for Florida in the 17 years I covered the Gators in person. And it was, he and Leak were on that day. That was a tough one with PK Sam and the Hail Mary, but, that 50-yarder that got lost in the lights. But Ben was great and got robbed that year, my man. You should have won the Mackey and been first team All-American. Kellen Winslow had 1 touchdown that year. Ben had 6, besides averaging probably 5 yards more a catch. He would agree with all that, I think.
He did it well, and he's doing it well now as the guy's representing. Edgar, I know you don't get into too much of this stuff because you don't have time for it, and it's really not part of your beat. But all the NIL stuff that we know about. By the way, you heard Rashada's back in the portal, right? Which is ironic.
I heard they can get him for $12 million, buddy.
Yeah, exactly, a discount. But from the standpoint of covering what's going on, just keeping track is enormous. I mean, look at today's basketball story. I mean, unbelievable. This guy Ruben Chinyello, I guess you pronounce it. They got him today. He had 45 blocks at Washington State. And he had 2 other guys today. He got 3 pieces. And then we get news about the portal, who's in, who's out, what's going on in Colorado. And then you get rules changes. Like yesterday, they basically said you can transfer anytime you want to. I mean, today, Virginia passed a law where they can now pay their players directly from state schools in Virginia. I don't know how we keep up with all this. And one thing about Ben keeps up with it pretty well, and he supports the university through his devotion and commitment to helping players. So both of you play a big part. But Ben, welcome back to the program, and I know you've been busy 84 Reasons podcast. You get to talk to some of the players. What are you picking up from?
Well, I mean, even just picking up, I mean, just trying to keep up with it, buddy, is a good assessment. But I think the thing about the NIL people need to know is it's a ever evolving door. It's not going to stop. It's only going to keep on picking up momentum. But the thing, even with even trying to go around the horn of everything you said, Coach Golden did a good job of picking up some quality pieces. I mean, Florida's still a big destination spot, but people think just because big names in the portal you can snatch them. You still got to fit the system that Coach Golden runs. People go, well, just get this guy and get that. I know they got the big walk-on kid from IMG. I think he's like 7'6" or something like that. I think he's
7'8" wingspan or something.
Something crazy. But Colorado is interesting because Deion Sanders is the head coach. If Deion Sanders were not the head coach of Colorado, this would not be making big news. But I think the thing about it is, it shows the intrigue of Deion. I like what Edgar said about Billy Napier, and sometimes when you come to a place like Florida, it's kind of like when Lane Kiffin was at Tennessee when he was at Tennessee, he said, "Dude, like football never stops." Like no, because he was at USC where you got other stuff like the Lakers and the Clippers and the Dodgers and the Angels. Well, that's all they got in Knoxville. So I think for Billy Napier, I know he had Josh Payton and giving him jerseys. I know he about to go on his Gators caravan tour, but Florida, we don't forget anything. Like Edgar just went back to 2003 like it was yesterday. So when it comes to the memories of Gator fans and people who the Gator beat writers, ain't nobody gonna forget about Utah until you take it out of until you get that ugly taste out of mouth. Ain't nobody gonna forget about Kentucky. Ain't nobody gonna forget about Arkansas. Nobody's gonna forget it. I don't care that Anthony Richardson didn't know that when you throw a Hail Mary, you got to keep it in bounds. He threw it out the end zone. Even the DBs from Vanderbilt was like, "Did you see what he just?" So it's those type of things that even Vanderbilt told Florida, "Y'all know y'all not supposed to lose us, right? Like we want to beat y'all, but it shouldn't happen in real life. Y'all should be waking up from this nightmare." But he understands it. Graham Mertz coming back in 2024 is the biggest. That's the biggest news of the offseason, saying, look, he'll be back. I know everybody. I knew what DJ Lagway threw one pass, and there go the future. I get that. I'm happy that he's with Florida. But for Billy Napier, whoever these schedule makers did not do him one favor. Not one.
That's for sure.
But, I mean, nobody wants to have, 2-6 in a 3-year span, 2-6, a win season. 6. You get 6 or 7 wins with this schedule, with everybody you play everybody in Florida, but what FAU, FIU, the USF, you literally play everybody else. I think for him, he got to come out swinging, but I think he'll be fine. Like I said, no one feels sorry for it. You are the most recognizable coach in the state of Florida. Take nothing away from Coach Peterson or Todd Bowles or Mike McDaniel. You the head coach of Florida. You are the guy. So I hope he lives up to it. Come. He has a lot of support, but Edgar knows this. It don't mean nothing if you can't win. If you don't win, he could be the greatest guy in the world. Want to have him at your wedding, but if you ain't winning, we gonna say it as nice as my mama say. She used to tell me this. She said, "Son, I love you. As your mama, I'm gonna encourage you in your face. But if you stink when you walk out the room, that's when the truth comes in." It's like that boy there, Lord. What do you
think of that? That philosophy, Edgar.
Well, a couple things. One, NIL. I mean, obviously we keep track of that and have to, but things are happening so quickly. 2024 alone is going to be such a transformational year in college football with the playoff, 12 teams. With the conference realignments, this year, Oklahoma and Texas come into the league. You got, Washington, Oregon, USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. It's going to be a bunch of changes, but there are changes happening weekly, like this thing yesterday, the immediate transfers. Yeah. NIL is a moving target constantly. Florida Victoria seems like it's moving the ball down the field much better than before, but still ground to make up. But you're always having to make up ground at this level. And in terms of the schedule, it's brutal. Billy cannot afford any missteps in the early part of it. You have opportunities. Miami at home to open. The energy should be fantastic. You got all this time to prepare. It's a game you need to win. Cam Ward apparently looked quite good in his spring game. It's not going to be easy. That's a talented roster. Samford, you got to win. A&M, you're getting with a first-year coach early. At Mississippi State, another first-year coach, and that's a down program right now. And then you get UCF after a bye week. You have to win the UCF game, especially when you weren't going to entertain more than a 2-for-1 with that program when Danny White was there and Scott Strickland didn't want to do but a 2-for-1 at the time. And then you go to Tennessee. You got to be 4-1 going to Tennessee at worst, in my opinion. And if you can win that one, then you get Kentucky at home. Then you get ready for that November gauntlet that is as hard a 5-game month as any school ever had.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
It's just going to be brutal. But, as Ben pointed out, Graham Mertz coming back was critical. Now, he needs to do some things. He knows he needs to attack downfield more. They had only 2 games with 5 completions at 20 yards or longer. Mm-hmm. One was Georgia, the other South Carolina. Billy Gonzalez says the standard is 5 a game. So they weren't meeting that standard per game. They need to get more explosive. Eugene Wilson needs a compliment or 2 potentially.
Boy, I love what he looks like. Man, he had a great spring game.
But he needs a compliment out of the portal, someone who's another number 1-ish type on the outside.
How about those 2 guys they're talking to, Edgar? Is that real?
Colorado State guys?
Yeah.
That's real. I haven't put it out there. Someone tells me this days ago, and they're like, don't put it out there. And then everyone's starting to put it out. But whatever. I'm just kind of watching and waiting and seeing. Yeah. I don't go crazy on Twitter, but
you can't. You just don't know. It changes over in 2 seconds.
I'll tell you this though. Here's encouragement. Trevor Etienne was a huge loss. Suddenly you got a playmaker like him in the backfield, one like Eugene. You can do some stuff. Jordan Baugh, man, was a revelation.
Oh my gosh, I think Baugh is a phenomenal looking player. I mean, even I can see that.
He was a revelation of the game.
He can run the route tree. He's played safety. He's played linebacker. And he tote the rock. Ben, the way he looks when he carries the ball, he's got those instinctive Emmitt Smith type moves.
Great feet and acceleration.
He's 238 pounds, by the way.
He's a monster.
I mean,
I'll tell you this:
trying to survive in the SEC. I mean, Montreal is the guy, and I do agree with Edgar said. The thing about college football, listen. The best teams, I don't care if it's college or pro, they have one thing in common. They have the best supporting cast in sports, but they accept it. I think with football, people always say everybody want a starring role. Everybody want a starring role. It's hard to be a star because you got to maintain that level game in and game out. Yeah. And college is the best place to be be a part of the supporting cast because those are the ones that make the team. When people say special teams in Florida used to be a weapon because it was a great supporting cast, whether it was punting, kicking, as well as return game. That we got to get back to that. And I think for Florida, it's saying, look, you at Florida, so you got the exposure, right? You're gonna run the gauntlet. Everybody's gonna be watching because you're Florida, but if you can get some guys that ain't coming in saying, I got to be the guy. Like I got to be. Every tight end that come through Florida, I hope to God they're not comparing him to Kyle Pitts. That's unfair to them. They can't do that stuff. But when you get an Arliss and a Hayden Hansen, and you get Zip and those guys coming back, now you got a great supporting cast.
Boardingham looks Florida, really good. I love Boardingham.
He does. But I think for Florida, it's all about saying, look, Florida is at its best when you got a bunch of guys playing well. It don't got to be an alpha male. You want a couple, want 1 or 2. Which Montreal is that. I think Graham Mertz is that. I know that Wilson going to get a lot of attention, but you don't have a Ricky Pearsall that could just get open on any defense. You don't have that, but I don't think you need that. I think on defense, simple and plain, get off the field on 3rd down, track the ball in the air, and just make tackles.
Yeah, make a play, yeah, for sure. Hey,
little things.
Yeah, Edgar, I would be remiss if I don't get right to this before you run out of time.
Sure.
I've got to get your real granular take on what Florida's young quarterback, DJ Lagway, looks like to you. You got a chance to see him on the hoof. I know it's not game conditions, but you've been around long enough to be able to size up how the composure of the quarterback looks, how they break from the huddle, when he throws the ball, his release. What did you see in that young man, Edgar?
Well, I saw a guy who suffered a lot of growing pains this spring. A bit I saw, but more you kind of heard, through the grapevine. A lot of turnovers, a lot of forcing the issue. Billy even had that one kind of it wasn't even cryptic. It was like easy to read between the lines where he said he asked DJ after the first scrimmage or during it, "Did you ever play poker? Because when you have a 3 and a 4 in Texas Hold'em, you're supposed to fold your hand." And he said he never played poker, meaning he was forcing, like playing in every hand he could, and to the hilt all in. And he needed to be a little smarter and with the ball and game management, he called it. But then he goes in the swamp spring game, and you're thinking, oh man, this could be a Felipe Franks 2.0, 4 passes, 3 picks. Wasn't that. In fact, other than that nunnery pass, yeah, he sailed one higher. Second or third throw was a high throw across the middle, whatever, little anxious. But man, he settled down. His throw to Mizell.
It didn't affect him. He came back from it and he held his composure.
The throw to Mizell was on the money. That was an easy touchdown. I think Aiden Mizell's got a chance to really do something.
Chris Doring talked about him last night about how good he looks.
And then that Spirito pass where he's on the right hash, throwing all the way across the field, 32 yards, dropping it over the DB before the safety got there. That was as good a throw as you'll see. 32 yards.
Looks really good. Really good.
So he's got some arm talent. Everyone's talking about his release, this, that, and the other. I was around in 2006 in the spring when there was a kid who had this kick release and sailing balls and taken off at the wrong time and frustrating teammates named Tim Tebow. And we know how that turned out.
What happened to that guy? Where'd he go?
He's not going to have a major role, nor did Tim, but there are going to be moments you can use him effectively, whether it's like that rocker step play they used against LSU or a couple of runs against Tennessee. That was 2 games they won probably because of Tim Tebow, or in large part, or he helped supplement those victories. You get a couple of wins because Lagway pitches in. And Mertz has a good, solid season. The defense elevates. The defense is the key. The defense has to be a ton better.
Yeah. We know this. It's about the defense when you say that.
Yeah.
But it's also like building a roster. Edgar, running short of time here, I want to make sure that we get this in. Sure. You are a hardworking man. You're digging, asking, whatever. You ask the tough questions.
Okay.
Earlier this week, we had a guy named Josh Pate that came in and got an exclusive interview. And by the way, it was very good. He got some chance to have some direct shots, direct questions. Billy responded to them, and some of the things we've been wanting to know for quite some time, he revealed to Josh Pate. I loved the interview. I learned a lot by listening and watching. But I thought to myself, how about my guys like Edgar Thompson, who've been asking for these kinds of interviews for years, and the guy sits down and spills his gut. So what's your take on that, Edgar?
I mean, look, we talk with Billy sometimes and find out little tidbits and maybe don't rush everything out into the ecosystem, the media ecosystem, the social media. And you're referring to him calling plays. I mean, I think that's been pretty well known that Billy's going to stick with play calling. That's what you're referring to, buddy?
That's not really new. I mean, it's just I'm referring to the fact that he did reveal some things like that and made a comment on special teams that wasn't exactly. But I think overall was pretty candid in that interview.
Well, let me say this one thing on play calling. And it's one, I don't want to say concern, but it's the one thing I look at. You make all these changes. You change strength nutrition. You change defensive staff completely, pretty much. You get a different offensive line second coach to go with Rob Sale. You're doing all kinds of changes, yet you're going to continue to call plays. And I'm not saying he can't be an effective play caller. We've seen 2 years of it. There's signs of good run scheme. There's some moments where the offense does look very good. There are too many, to me, moments where timeouts are wasted. There's disorganization. I don't know if the decision-making when it's not scripted has, there's some head-scratching, go-for-it situations or plays that are too exotic for my taste, honestly, from a guy who you think's kind of conservative, tries these like wild plays at weird times. I don't know that I'm all in on the play calling. He wants to do it. He loves to do it. He's going to go down swinging. It's his team. He can do what he wants. We'll see how it works out. I'm curious, and I'm wondering what Ben thinks because he looks like he's chomping at the bit.
Well, Ben, go ahead and respond.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of agree too with what you're saying, Edgar. I mean, I think sometimes when it comes to these coaches, right? I mean, people don't understand the legacy of Steve Spurrier is thick when you come through Florida and you got any type of play calling ability in you. But I think the thing is that's different with a Billy Napier is he don't got to prove it the same way. Meaning, when I was in Florida, and I know I was a lot to deal with. Everybody, young and ambitious and wanting to make a name for yourself. But Coach Spurrier made the game simple. Like his play calling dictated the tempo of the entire game and that of the defense. And the difference in Coach Spurrier and Coach Napier is if Coach Spurrier is going for it on fourth down and he's not going to keep calling plays on fourth. It just don't go together. I don't know how many times we go for it on fourth down, but it ain't in the positive. It's in the negative. So if you are gonna call plays, one thing you got to do the simple things, and we can't keep pushing the ball horizontal and hoping that it goes forward. Just push the ball vertical. You got a run game, and he's the head coach, so nobody can stop the head coach from calling plays. I mean, I was blessed enough to have a cup of coffee down there with John Gruden, and when head coaches call plays, it kind of takes something away from the head coach position because you're doing a lot more than you have to do. You don't got to do that much. You really, really don't. You're gonna approve every play on the play call sheet, but I just think it just adds too much to a position that's already brutal. You the head coach of Florida. I don't think you got to do that much, but he's the head guy. Can't nobody stop him. But I also agree with something you said though, buddy. If you can sit down with Josh Pate, and I love Josh Pate, I think he does a great job. I don't know. I think you can sit down with like people like Edgar and yourself, buddy, only because you're doing the popular thing. Like you're doing the momentum, and Josh does a good job. I've had Josh on my show before. It's the fact that the same way you can give out jerseys, this, that, and the third, Josh has to be kind of complimentary because you welcome on campus. That's not what media does. Media is there to tell the truth, call it like they see it, good, bad, and ugly. And it's been a lot of ugly to go around.
Yeah.
I just think that if you got a guy like Graham Mertz, who outside of Carson Beck, he has the best QBR. I think he's number 2 in the nation in QBR. I think it's Carson Beck, him, then Shadir Sanders. If he's coming back, don't put him in a box. And you can't be afraid to throw the ball deep. I don't know where we get this from. We can't throw the ball. You don't got to complete deep balls. But if you want to get safeties to back up, you better throw it. Because we're going to have 8 in the box, 8 and 9 in the box until we can prove otherwise. But I agree with you too, Edgar. Look, I played with Spurrier, and he was a juggernaut. That's different. But I also played with Zook. Zook ain't want nothing to do with play calling. I'm talking about defense, offense, and he's a great special teams guy. I just think head coaches that call plays, and it could be just me, that's wanting way too much credit. Because you the head coach. At first, we didn't even have an OC. And now we got one, and he still can't call plays. So, I don't know. I just think in college, with so much micromanaging going around, the last thing you need to do is be, I don't know, the judge, the jury, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Because up until this point, it hasn't worked. But we'll see if something magical happen in year 4. We'll see.
All right. Update from out in Dallas, Dan Bond, and National Women's Gymnastics going on. Florida third after one rotation. Oklahoma last. UF needs to finish in the top two. So that's an update there. Edgar, before you go, I know you got to get out of here.
Sure.
Give me your takeaway about, in terms of your feeling, your gut feeling about where this program is going. I know all the variables. I know the schedule. Is the team better than it was last year? And despite the record, can Billy make his mark on this program this year?
I personally feel like Billy, barring just a catastrophic season, should get another year. I think he deserves 4 years. He's had to redo a lot of things and in a whole new landscape of college football. He's had to put systems in place. I like good systems too. And Billy is putting in, systems with NIL, systems with, recruiting, all these things. And it seems like it's, the roster's improving. It seems like the staff has energy with these young coaches, Chapman and Harrison. Got Ron Roberts kind of maybe overseeing Armstrong or helping Armstrong along a little bit, because I think Armstrong has a gift. I think he proved that at Southern Miss in 2022. He's got something. I mean, as a 28-year-old coordinator, that defense was pretty damn good. And Saban wanted him. And then I think they're heading in a positive direction. The schedule's brutal. But unless it's an utter, 3 or 4 win season, I think you got to stick with the guy, man. So I don't know that he's going to distinguish himself this year, to your question, but I think that he's going to make some strides. Yeah. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know what to expect, man.
I know what you're saying. I know.
Last year,
we're all guessing here.
I didn't expect what I said last season.
Yes. I just want to add this one note. I don't know why we're talking so much about Josh Pate. I guess because he got stuff out of Billy that we hadn't heard before.
Well, tell me.
And he had a footnote to that interview. I saw it tonight. He came away blown away by Florida. He said, "There's no place like this anywhere in the country." This is his post-interview comments. So Billy certainly impressed him a lot. So we'll see. But I'm glad to see they're talking like that. I wish they'd do it more often. I wish Billy would sit down with 2 or 3 of you guys and let them go one-on-one with him. It would help everybody. I think this interview helped him a lot. We'll see. They're still got to get the W's. Edgar, thank you, my friend, for taking the time. We appreciate it very much. Have a good trip, and we'll catch you when you get back, all right?
Yeah, I'm working on a Ricky Pearsall story. I'm going to go finish.
Oh,
but
good.
I tell you, that guy, you talk about a guy raising his stock, man.
Yeah.
He's going to be he's been really impressive. So that's next week for people that aren't aware, your listeners. But hey, Ben, good seeing you as always, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Number 84.
Make sure to tell Ricky Pearsall management team they need to send Steve Smith Sr. some champagne, because that is, when you get that type of endorsement from Steve Smith Sr., Slick Rick is what they call him. Hey, man, you don't get a better endorsement than a guy like that, because Steve Smith Sr., he ain't going to cut no corners, and he ain't going to lie for you. He knows what he knows.
I love watching that guy.
Yeah.
Man, that was a player.
Let me get Edgar going. I got friends in the orange blue room. So thanks, Edgar. Appreciate that. We're going to take this time out, do this spot, and bring Franz aboard. Big news in basketball today. Some big gets by Todd. Nobody better than Franz Beard to talk about that. So standing by. The Iron Duke is next right here on the Buddy Martin Show. We'll take this break with our sponsors and come back and we'll get the Iron Duke. Jeffrey, you do a show where you ask a lot of questions. I've got one for you right now, okay, regarding how do you know whether your case is being handled right and what to do about it. In medicine, you can get a second opinion if you're not satisfied with the doctor's opinion that they have. And do you have that in law? Can you do that with lawyers?
Yeah, buddy. As a matter of fact, we get quite a few calls from folks that have signed up, particularly with the big box law firms, that they do a hell of a good job of putting ads on TV, but after that, they don't really measure up to the way we try to create a client experience that's outstanding. And we're always willing to review a case and give a second opinion, just like with a doctor, because not all law firms are created equal.
I guess that's the normal thing. Just go to Meldon Law, Google it, and find out, and just give them a call. And like you say, if you come in, you get to see a Meldon. You don't get shuffled off to somebody else. You get to see a Meldon, and that's good to know because a lot of people don't know how to do that stuff, like me. And maybe you can coach us through. So Meldon Law, they won't back down. They will take your questions about your case if you have a question.
Yes, whether it's a new case or an existing case, give us a call. We'd be glad to go over it with you. There's no charge to review your case with you. And a lot of times it makes good sense just to get a second opinion.
Good stuff from Meldon Law. They don't back down, but they will give you a second opinion. Back to the program, joined by Franz Beard, who had a lot of news today. Francis, what did this basketball team just turn into here?
Well, I can tell you one thing. Size is not going to be a problem next year. They just got the big Nigerian kid who played his freshman year at Wazoo, Ruben Chinyelu, 6'11", 250 pounds, and he's still skinny, guys. I'm telling you, this is a kid that's going to fill out with some more muscle on him, and I think he's going to grow another inch. He's going to be a beast. And you get him with Sam Alexis, who they got last week. You got Hang Lockton coming back. You got Condon, and you got Hawk. The Gators are going to be big next year, and everybody's going to have to contend with that. Now he's got 3 spots still open because he's got Will Richard will be back, Clayton will be back, Denzel Aberdeen will be back, and Kaias Kablikas will be back. So he's got 4. So he's got 3 spots open. Isaiah Brown, signee coming in from Orlando Christian Prep, who is a real good slasher out of the wing. So he's going to need to, I think they're going to go after like about a kid who's maybe 6'7" or so, who maybe about 220, something like that. They can guard the smaller but physical wing guys, low post guys like that, can go out and guard on the perimeter as well. I think they're going to go after another shooter, and I think they're going to go after one more point guard. So
they
that's
got some
what
shot
I
blockers, that's for sure. This kid is 6'11" with a 7'8" wingspan. He was the all-time leader in blocks at 45 at Wazoo. So obviously, with the team they got already in place, they're going to have a hard time. We're talking rim protection here, Franz.
Well, you got to remember something. Condon and Hawk
they're very good.
All 3 of them are good shot blockers.
Very good shot blockers.
So let's just say Florida's probably going to own the paint a lot.
I'll say. Yeah.
I mean, Ben Troupe ain't going to be able to post anybody.
Oh no. Yeah, I was gonna say back in my even though Joe Kim Noah is like 2 or 3 years younger than me, he was getting ready. We used to go to Southwest Rec when we was in college, and I had Orion Green and Major Wright, and I think I had like 1 year of Udonis Haslam and Bonell Cole.
Brett Wright was there.
Yeah, and so we catch him. We catch him in the Southwest Rec, and we're bigger than them in size, but obviously not in height. And the thing about you forget how good these players are because you measuring them against other basketball players in the SEC. When them guys go to the rec, number one, they don't miss. They can shoot from anywhere on the court, and 6'4", 6'5" in football, that's pretty tall. That's pretty tall. So, I'm sitting there, Bonell Cole's like 6'11", 6'10", 6'11". They throw it to me down low. I'm doing all these moves. I'm thinking, man, I turn and face him. That ball is somewhere in Gainesville. We still ain't found it because that's back when and when a young Joe Kim, he comes on the floor, and Joe Kim got this real easygoing demeanor. But when he step on the floor, he is nasty. Like talk trash. He ain't in our face because he's so much taller than us. But what I say that to say, when you start talking about what Coach Golden is building, he's trying to build bullies down low. Because when Florida were at, they be like, look, man, you ain't getting nothing down here. Meaning, I don't care who you are. We got 5 fouls to give, and they used to always tell us big man should not. When the game was over, if you how many fouls you got left? 3. You had 3 fouls left. No, man, you should have maybe 1, 2, maybe.
Here's the thing, Ben. They going to have 25 fouls that are 6'9" or taller.
Wow.
And here's 2 things to remember. The dunk is a better high percentage shot than a 3-point shot. And if the other team can't dunk on you, but you can dunk, you have an advantage. And if the other team is going to have to shoot threes to beat you because they can't get anything inside, you still have a pretty good advantage. And I think that's what he's doing now. This kid, Sam Alexis, coming in, who's from Apopka, was 185 pounds when he came out of high school. He's 240 now. He's 6'9", and he is a grown man. He's 19 years old, but he's a grown man. And I'm convinced that Chinyelu is probably going to end up being about 7 foot, 7'1", maybe 260 when he's finished growing. Henlogton, the fractured leg is going to turn out to be one of the great things that ever happened to Micah, because in rehab, he's going to be pushing the weights. He's going to be putting on muscle. And the one thing that a lot of guys who come back for, as you know, Ben, from being in the NFL and in college ball, a lot of these guys that come back from season-ending injuries, you come back the next year and you look at them and say, "What happened to you, buddy?
Yeah.
Where'd you get muscle transplants or something?" And this is what happens because these guys can't get out on the floor and do stuff. So what do? They pump that iron, and they end up getting a lot stronger. I would be surprised if Micah comes back at less than 250 next year. 7'1", 250. Condon's going to be about 240 something next year. Hawk is going to be about 230. Going to be physical and everything like that too. So going to be a good time. By the way, Caglione, the Gators are getting smoked by Van Dien.
9-3 last time I heard on rather the Lightning today. What's the latest?
Caglione has hit a home run in
another one. 8 in a row. 8 games. Is
8 games in a row. Yeah.
Oh.
And he will be up in the 9th inning. He should be up, but somebody's got to get on base for him to get up in the 9th. But so far, Cags is what can you say about him? And the good thing about him, Buddy and Ben, is he's just a big kid. I mean, this is just a big kid. He's out there. He's having fun. He's enjoying it. He's fun to watch because he's having so much fun playing the game. And these days and times, it's hard to find those guys that are just enjoying themselves. And I got to tell you what, Cags is fun to watch because nobody's having more fun out there than he is. Jeffrey Allen Caglione, he is going to be one serious
great player
in the big leagues one day.
Yeah, greatest player Florida's ever had. I'm going to tell you about Titan MRI, and Coach Meadows is going to join us, giving us his insights on what his takeaway was. If you don't like Sammy Ball, I call him, you don't know football. This guy's amazing. I watched him play, and I'm telling you, this guy is something else. He's got it all. I want to get Coach Meadows' take on that and a lot more with these 3 characters after this. First, Titan MRI. For those of you who live around the North Central Florida area, you should know about this premier independent diagnostic testing facility for MRIs. They'll make a schedule for you. If you can't come see them at a certain time in business hours, you can get a night, a weekend appointment. Games in North Central Florida. They're focused on you, the patient, and customer service. They want you to know that they know you lead a busy life, and they will be able to accommodate you outside regular business hours. Also, their equipment is modern, and one of the largest boards or openings of any newer high-strength MRI unit, which means that you can be comfortable getting scanning without getting potential claustrophobia. TitanMRI.com. Check them out right there in North Central Florida. Well, Mr. Meadows, I think we talked to you earlier in the week about this, but It sounds like we're gaining some positive momentum here, although you wouldn't have probably known it last night. Listen to David Moulton. But what feels like, let me just present this little scenario. Is what Todd Golden is doing now in the portal what we wanted to see Billy Napier do? Loren?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you in the portal you want to address needs, and I think that's one of the things that have kind of been left on Florida Gator fans when it comes to football is that Florida has maybe not addressed needs that might have been glaring to the point where it's a stopgap. We talk about some of the deficiencies at safety, and where you had some guys like Nunnery and Molden where they could fill a need, but it wasn't really somebody that could make an impact. And with what you see with Todd Golden is guys that are coming in, like Franz said, and really presenting mismatches for the opponents. Now, obviously, in basketball, it's a little easier than football because you need a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I think that with what Florida has to offer, and I think being a predominant SEC football program with a lot to offer, I think that they found that, or at least thought that Billy would bring in a little bit more high profile transfers. But this year, I think, to temper kind of the results a little bit, I think that Billy has really addressed some needs, like I said, with Turner and Evans at safety and things like that. I think they shored up the offensive line. So, I mean, when you look at it from the standpoint of the complete picture, I think he's doing better. But yeah, obviously, maybe not the splashes that have been expected, but I think in the long run, something that, will pay dividends going into the season.
Ben, I tell you what, Todd Golden's been hot.
He has. It's so much different in football and basketball because I think the thing about it is you talk about football. I mean, these players are going to waste so much. They're going to waste so much as far as like who's there, playing time and scheme and all these different. And make no mistake about it, man. I mean, I can't remember the young man who was supposed to come to Florida at quarterback, and his daddy said, "Look, we chose to go to Ole Miss because we looked at this schedule." I mean, give these players certain credit. They know you can't hide, but Coach Golden, I mean, the thing about the basketball circuit that's always going to be different than football is the AAU circuit. These coaches, they've known some of these players for a long time. They just got to pick certain schools they go to, and Florida is still a big time destination in basketball. I think it's a great destination of football. It's just different, and when you start talking about NIL, I don't know how it affects basketball players. I know it does. I'm not saying it don't. But football is just so much different. If a kid coming out 4 or 5 stars, he's getting a certain dollar amount when he came out. When he jump in the portal, he still expect that type of money. He might not get it, but that's what he's going to expect. And I know that all those are determining factors when you start talking about Florida. But I will say this. You know why Coach Golden's job is different and easier? The tournament. These players can see, he's making the tournament. Yeah. When you're winning games in football, you don't got to do as much. And I don't care what no one says. Winning still sells. It sells every day of the week. So, for Billy Napier, to make your job easier, you got the brand recognition, you got the brand notoriety, just got to get the dubs. And so that could be the difference in losing a player and getting a player, and your negotiations are a lot different when you winning, because if you can show a player we're winning without you, it's easy to get him. But if you ain't winning without him, that might be a different negotiation in these living rooms.
Gotcha. Franz, some people think when Cal stepped down, the guy they should have gone after before the one they got, although he didn't play at Kentucky, was in fact Todd Golden. How close was Kentucky to calling him next?
Oh, I think Kentucky would have loved to have called him next, but I think that Todd Golden basically let it be known ahead of time, don't call us, we'll call you when we're ready to go to Kentucky. Todd's not going anywhere, and Todd's smart not to. Why go to Kentucky, even though it is Kentucky? Granted, there's no other place in college basketball except maybe Kansas like Kentucky, and that includes Duke and North Carolina. and you guys know how attached I've been to the ACC over the years. But Kentucky you've got an entire state behind you in Kentucky, just like Kansas. You've got an entire state behind you. You have people who live, eat, breathe, sleep, die, leave tickets in their will, the whole bit there. Todd understands one thing. He can be his own guy here. At Kentucky, you're always going to be just another coach until you've won 4 national championships. It's driven off coaches in the past, and it'll continue to. And he's got a good thing going here without that kind of living in a fishbowl mentality. Florida, he's got an advantage that Florida's a football school. He really does have an advantage here because it's kind of like even when Billy Donovan won 2 in a row, everybody was still talking about Tim Tebow winning the Heisman in 2007, almost more than they did about Florida had won a second consecutive national championship. And at Kentucky, football's what they do to get to basketball season. Just and they can talk all they want to about Mark Stoops being a great coach and all this other stuff. You can be a great coach and still never be more than an 8-4 coach at Kentucky.
Loren, it's tough to turn down
reality.
As a coach. It's tough to turn down a Kentucky or Alabama. I mean, as a coach, if you're coaching and they call you, you got to at least think about the top of the mountain. You can't just say, "Well, I'm okay down here." I mean, I would.
A lot of people did. I know for a fact that they talked to, or at least had feelers out to at least 6 different coaches that said, "Thanks, but no thanks." If John Calipari, who probably handles the media and is probably did more in that state than any basketball coach ever has for the people of that state, you look at all the millions he raised when there were floods, tornadoes, you name it. If John Calipari walks away from it, I think it may open up a lot of eyes for a lot of people.
Yeah, but he had a lot of years there, a lot of success, and so
but just to say, buddy, if he's walking away from it, I think a lot of people are saying maybe this isn't for me. A lot of people. You look at how Alabama, until they struck gold with Nick. I mean, Alabama ran through a bunch of football coaches before they got to Nick.
Well, Loren, what do you think as a coach? What do you do in a situation like that? You have once in a lifetime chance to coach one of the top schools in the country. You're afraid of failure, afraid to follow Nick Saban, afraid to follow Calipari. What would you do as a coach?
What would I do?
You got Lauren respond.
You got to look at the gig for sure. I mean, you got to take a long, hard look at. You talk about traditional powerhouses, Kentucky in basketball, Alabama in football. I mean, it's not often you get to go, and I know you got to follow the man and things like that. But me personally, when I was a coach, I felt pretty good about my coaching prowess and what I knew about the game and my ability to reach people. So I mean, me personally, I probably would jump at the chance. Now I might not leave Florida to go to Kentucky. Just for the sake of I'm kind of built different when it comes to jumping within the conference. But if you look at a guy like Kalen DeBoer, who had the opportunity to leave Washington to go to Alabama, even though you follow Nick Saban, the draw, the resources, and what comes with winning, and with everything that Alabama brings to the table. I mean, you got to listen, and you got to give it a hard listen. I mean,
we talk about players not being willing to compete. Ben, sometimes coaches don't want to compete in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, but coaches always understand that they're not going to get the same level of scrutiny that a player would get. But I think the thing about Kentucky or Alabama is it's the greatest. What if I get it right? Because if you do,
sure, you got to think that. You got to think.
I mean, because to me, that's all coaching is. What if we get it right? Like that is coaching. Like the thing about it is most teams only have a tradition based off, within that city or that state. It ain't a tradition that's celebrated nationally. Kentucky is celebrated nationally. Alabama is celebrated nationally. Right? Most schools talk like they are celebrated. They're not. Calipari left Kentucky because he wanted more than what they was already giving him, and they said no. He tried to use Arkansas to get more. They said, dude, we gave you a lifetime. We gave you a lifetime contract, and you walked away from that. Well, I want more because Kentucky is the bluest of the blue blood there is. It don't get much bluer than that. But at the same time, expectations. Listen, being the head coach of Kentucky is like being the head coach of the Lakers when they had Kobe and Shaq, when they had Kareem and Magic. If you ain't winning chips, like what? Because you getting the best players, they blue chippers. But what hurt Kentucky was the one and dones. They're gonna have the youngest team, the youngest, most talented team in basketball, but they're not gonna make it through the tournament. Who keeps winning the tournament? Guys has been there 3 and 4 years. The UConns, the Villanovas, those type of squads. So I think for Calipari, he knows if I go to Arkansas, my name and resume alone is gonna keep me around. That, like you said, Franz, at Kentucky, man, please, outside of whoever those that little, I don't know if it was a Walgreens or wherever they used to meet to eat the breakfast. Outside of that, he ain't having no dealings with the general public because he don't want to hear that criticism. So I think the only people that's going to get jobs at places like Alabama or the Kentucky, you got to have a tremendous resume because it can't be these guys that when you on sports, you know how they'll. And I love them to death. When Ron Zook got hired as the head coach, now he was here before, but he was a special teams guy. He wasn't the head coach.
Well, he was the D-line coach.
Well, D-line coach, it's nowadays you got to have a resume to get. You got to have a name recognition and a resume to get these jobs. So, I do agree with Loren. I mean, I don't care who you are. Kentucky call your phone. Steve Sarkisian said he thought about being the head coach of Alabama for 60 seconds. He's a liar. He thought about it longer than that. He thought about it much longer than that. But at the same time, he's at Texas. I mean,
Spurrier turned down Alabama.
Exactly. But at the same time, though, Franz, when people say, I turned down Alabama, where you at, though?
Billy Donovan turned down Kentucky twice.
Because they understand. Listen, when you have to be in a profession long enough to understand that, man. I saw Billy Donovan just announced. I can't remember the player who just got it. He told him he getting inducted to the Florida Hall of Fame. Florida. If they would have told me that, I said that's Billy Donovan. If they wouldn't have said, do you see how Billy Donovan look? His hair ain't even turned white. I don't even know what color his hair is. And he's in Chicago, which that's probably why his hair ain't.
And he loves coaching in the NBA. He turned down Kentucky
because what else can he do? He can't do nothing but hurt his legacy now, Franz. He's done it all.
But Kentucky basically told him they'd give him $15 million to come coach, and he said, "No, don't need it, don't want it." He's turned him down 3 times, twice when he was at Florida, once there. My point of all this is this: yeah, when Kentucky calls, when Alabama calls, you give them the courtesy to listen, but you've got to think of it like, okay, I'm going to be at the mountaintop with these guys if I get it right. You're right, Ben, if I get it right. But then you got coaches who sit there and say, I'm as comfortable as I need to be in my own skin. I don't need to go there and be under the fishbowl when I can be my own guy here and I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing. You got to be comfortable where you are. And if you're not, goodness, what good are you? Bill Self's had opportunities to leave Kansas. And we can say, well, it's Kansas, bluest of the blue bloods. But he's had opportunities to go. He stayed. Why? He's comfortable there. He's comfortable in his own shoes there. People don't realize John Wooden was at UCLA 18 years before he ever won a national championship. he was comfortable. He had chances. Purdue wanted him to come back because he's a Purdue guy. They wanted him to come back many, many times. And he stayed there. He was comfortable with what he was doing and where he was doing it. Every coach is different. Every situation is different. I might look at Kentucky different than anybody else because, I'm probably enough of a hot dog. I'd sit there and say, look at me. I get the limo. I get the country club membership. I can tolerate the winter up there because everywhere I go, I'm going to be loved and adored till I lose. But then again, I might be the type that also, Ben, you might be the type that you might sit there and say, you know what? I've been here a long time where I am. Why do I need to go reprove myself there? And I don't think it's a fear of failure, buddy, as much as I think it is, why, are you comfortable doing what you're doing and doing it while you're doing, you've had chances to go move on from Gator Bait. You came back to do Gator Bait, and you've had other opportunities to do stuff, and you've stuck with it because this is what you're comfortable doing, and you love it.
All right, good enough. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I wanted to give you an update on what's happening. Our man out in Dallas, Dan Bond, says Florida moves into a solid second place after a nice vault rotation. Utah is first. Florida's got to finish at least second out there, so good luck to them. All right, guys, give me your final thoughts in 15 seconds of where we go from here in football or basketball. Loren, you started.
In football, I mean, it's a lot of attention will turn back to recruiting, and that's not nearly as fluid as it was 3-4 years ago because a commitment means absolutely nothing. So don't get excited about all these commitments that may be coming here in the offseason because they may not be here in the wintertime when it actually matters. So,
lost one today, by the way. The big guy that lost today.
And like I said, that's the same thing. Everybody don't jump off it. Everybody be cool.
Yeah.
The landscape is changing, and you don't build your team that way anymore. So everybody relax.
Ben found false football or basketball.
I mean, I'll stay with football as well. I mean, don't get too caught up in when you're seeing these young men, 19, 20, 21 years old, giving these quote cryptic tweets because of what happens. They showing their emotions, right? It happens, right? Listen, as a person that was blessed enough to come through Florida, it took me 4 years to start. I played for 3 years, but you want to know what recruiting is? Derek Lagway has been here less than 2 or 3 months. He's the second string. When people say that ain't right, that's called football. What, you thought he was going to be third string? No, he's going to be number 2 until the fall comes, and then they're going to make sure he plays in 4 games. But like Loren said, until you see them out there against Miami, it don't mean anything until they run out there in the fall.
Francis, close it up.
Well, baseball lost 10-5. Caglione singled with 2 on in the top of the 9th, but they couldn't come back. They lose it 10-5. Cag 3 for 5 with a home run. Football. I think we got the right coach, building it the right way. I think Loren hit the nail on the head earlier in that he's got a system and he's plugging in the pieces to fit his system. He's going to be here through 2025. I've heard that from 3 people who I know have their finger directly on the pulse of what's going on. This year, if he's 2025 after that season, if he has yet to produce a decent team, he's going to be gone. But he's got 2 more years to get this thing done right. And they're going to give him every opportunity to succeed. They're not going to have the revolving door. Todd Golden is the real deal. Florida basketball. I'm telling you, there's people like ESPN and some of these others that have Florida as high as number 9, 10, 11, 12 in their preseason, all too early preseason for next year. And this is even before he had filled in with Alexis and Chinyelu and a couple others. People know what Florida has in this guy, and they are expecting great things from it. Florida's going. I think next year is going to be a year when we look back and we're going to say, boy, the dark days are behind us in both football and basketball. We're contenders again in both sports.
All right, good stuff, Francis.
One more tidbit, buddy. Sorry. So I was at Spurrier's tonight, and the Spurrier trivia question was, who should be the starter at quarterback, Mertz or DJ Lagway?
Oh, come on, Steve.
No. They did that kind of stuff because of Buddy. Remember when DJ Lagway first signed? Buddy, I like that's that Buddy stuff.
I'm sticking with it.
And the HBC in public, in front of about 100 people, said, who should be the quarterback?
Wow. Well, I'm going to tell you about that. He, of all people, creating
He
a
said
stir.
He said Mertz.
Okay.
He said Mertz.
Well, I think Mertz should start too. They got a great kid. It's like, all right, guys.
Yeah, tell Roland X to call me. I'll bet him on that comment.
The most famous Mertz since Fred Neffel.
All right, guys. Good night, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Talk to you next week. Thank you very much, guys. All right, I'm going to tell you about clinical therapies and clinical trials and why they're so important to us and our health. We're always looking for ways to have better health care, and this is the same business that Renstar is in. Renstar is constantly looking for ways to treat what ails us, and they do this through clinical trials. And clinical trials exist to bring new therapies to the public safely, and they would not exist without the commitment of you, the volunteers. They would love to have you volunteer for one of their programs. Go to renstar.net. If you do decide to participate, you could receive study-related medications and procedures at no cost to you or your insurance. You gain access to new investigational medications or devices that are not otherwise available and receive compensation for your time and travel. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. My thanks to Edgar Thompson, Ben Troupe, Franz Beard, and Coach Loren Meadows. Have a good night. We'll see you on Monday, folks. Appreciate your support on this program.